The tires screeched as the car pulled away, leaving her standing alone on the edge of a quiet, dusty gas station, the wind tugging at her oversized coat. She clutched her swollen belly, 8 months along, and watched the taillights disappear down the empty highway. Her heart pounded, her hands trembled, and for a moment, the world felt impossibly large and cold. How could he just leave her here? In the middle of nowhere, with nothing but the hum of the pumps and the fading sunlight for company, she felt utterly abandoned. The questions kept spinning in her mind, louder than the whistling wind, louder than her own heartbeat. Why would he do this? Was this real, or had she imagined the life they'd promised each other? Before we dive deeper into this story, make sure you hit that subscribe button for kindness Teles, and if this story touches your heart, give it a like and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps us share more stories of real human kindness and courage, and we'd love to hear your perspective. She had been driving for hours, following a route she barely knew, trying to escape the tension that had been building in their marriage. He had been distant for weeks, more focused on his resort business trips and luxury ventures than on the life growing inside her. She remembered when she first met him, the way he had swept her off her feet with charm, confidence, and a sense of adventure that made her feel alive. They had laughed under city lights, shared quiet dinners, and made plans that included every corner of their dreams. She had imagined their child growing up in a house full of love, laughter, and stability. But reality had a way of cutting through dreams like a sudden storm, and she was standing in the aftermath of that storm now. The gas station was quiet, almost eerily so. A few trucks rumbled in the distance, their headlights cutting through the dimming sky. She tried to steady herself against the cold metal of the pump, taking deep breaths as panic crept in. Her phone had no signal, and even if it did, who could she call? Her family lived across the country, and friends were busy with their own lives. For a moment, she felt like the world had forgotten her, like she had been erased from it. Tears pricked at her eyes, blurring the signs and cars passing by. She tried to remember why she had trusted him, why she had believed in his promises, and all she felt was betrayal. Then, through the haze of fear and exhaustion, she saw a figure approaching from the small convenience store. A man, not too old, wearing a worn jacket and a kind smile, carrying a few snacks. He noticed her immediately, the way her body shook, the way her eyes darted anxiously around the empty pumps. Without a word, he asked if she was okay, and for reasons she couldn't explain, she found herself nodding. She didn't know this man, but something in his gentle demeanor made her feel slightly less invisible. She explained, haltingly, that she had been left behind by her husband, that she was pregnant and alone, that her car had a flat tire and her phone was dead. He listened without interruption, offering a cup of hot coffee from a small shop as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "You can sit here, warm up," he said simply, and she felt tears welling up again, but this time from relief, not just fear. The world had not entirely abandoned her. Someone had noticed. Someone cared. He helped her with her car, inspecting the tire, finding the tools in his own trunk, and working quietly while she sat on the curb, clutching her belly. She watched him move with steady hands, a calm presence that contrasted sharply with the chaos she felt inside. There was no judgment, no questions about why she was alone, no unnecessary chatter. Just quiet, practical kindness, and the unspoken understanding that she needed help, not lectures or advice. By the time the tire was fixed, the sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky painted in shades of purple and orange, and she realized she hadn't felt this safe in hours, maybe days. She learned his name as they talked softly while he packed away his tools. He was a local, lived a few miles down the road, and ran a small mechanic shop that he had inherited from his father. Nothing glamorous, nothing flashy, just honest work that kept him busy and grounded. She felt a pang of envy mixed with gratitude. Here was someone who understood responsibility, who understood commitment, and he had no idea about the life-altering chaos that had just landed in his lap. When she mentioned she needed a ride to the nearest town, he didn't hesitate. They drove together, the hum of the engine filling the silence between them, and she felt herself slowly exhaling the tension that had built in her chest. Along the way, he shared small stories about his shop, about neighbors helping each other, about the little joys of life that didn't involve wealth or luxury. She laughed quietly at some of his tales, feeling a connection that was startlingly natural. For the first time in days, she felt like someone saw her as a person, not as a problem or an inconvenience. As they reached the town, she was overwhelmed by the complexity of her situation. Her husband had booked a suite at a luxury resort for a weekend getaway, leaving her to manage the pregnancy alone, unsure if she should follow, confront him, or just escape the entire situation. The anger she felt bubbled beneath the surface, but the exhaustion and gratitude for this stranger's help made her pause. He helped her check into a modest motel, ensuring she had a safe place to rest, and refused any payment for his time. "Just pay it forward when you can," he said simply, and she realized that sometimes kindness came without strings attached. Over the next few days, she began to regain a sense of control. She contacted her family, arranged for a doctor's visit, and started making plans for life on her own terms. Through it all, she couldn't shake the memory of the man who had appeared at that gas station, who had treated her with patience and compassion when the world seemed indifferent. It wasn't about the gesture itself, it was about the reminder that humanity existed outside the walls of her own struggles, that there were people willing to step in without expecting anything in return. Her husband eventually returned, expecting apologies and explanations, but she had changed. The fear that had once weighed her down was replaced with resolve. She told him firmly that she would not be manipulated or abandoned again, that she had found strength within herself and through the kindness of someone she had never expected to meet. He scoffed at first, assuming she was still vulnerable, but the calm determination in her eyes silenced his arrogance. She realized that being left alone had been a cruel catalyst, forcing her to discover resilience she didn't know she possessed. Months later, holding her newborn in her arms, she thought back to that deserted gas station and the man who had made a small, profound difference in the most critical moment of her life. She understood that kindness often arrives quietly, in moments when we feel most invisible, when the world seems to have turned its back. A simple act, offering a warm drink, a helping hand, a safe ride, had shifted the trajectory of her life. She had found strength, safety, and hope in someone who had no obligation to offer it. She shared the story with close friends and family, emphasizing the ripple effect of compassion. Each time she retold it, she felt the warmth of that stranger's generosity, and she realized that life's greatest lessons often came wrapped in unexpected encounters. She understood now that we are all capable of being that person for someone else, that one small choice can have a lifetime of impact. Looking back, she no longer felt abandoned at that gas station. She felt chosen, chosen by her own courage, chosen by the kindness of a stranger, chosen by the life she was determined to build. And she carried that lesson forward, letting it guide her through parenthood, friendships, and even the moments of doubt that inevitably arise. She learned that when the world seems harsh and indifferent, a single act of genuine care can restore faith, heal wounds, and inspire the strength to rise again. In the end, she realized that kindness wasn't just about grand gestures or headlines, it was about noticing someone in need, stepping forward when others step back, and believing in the good that still exists in people. She hoped that sharing this story would remind others that even in the darkest moments, help can arrive in unexpected forms, and that a small choice to be compassionate can change a life forever. And so, as she gazed at her sleeping baby, feeling the steady rhythm of life and love, she whispered a promise to herself to always be that person for someone else, and she encouraged everyone watching to do the same, to share stories of kindness, to lift someone when they feel unseen, and to remember that even the smallest acts can create ripples that last a lifetime. Would you like me to also create a catchy description and hashtags for this video that will maximize engagement on YouTube?